I don't know if you've ever gone into a vast office block at a weekend when nobody's in, but it's a great feeling. It feels very rebellious. Hello, lovely people. Something a little bit different from me today. I'm bringing you into work with me. And do you know why? Because I can. Because I'm self-employed and I'm the boss. It's only me. And trust me, when it's only you and you're self-employed, you've got to take the wins where you can find them. So, yeah, I thought I'd do something a little bit different and explain a little bit of how my self-employment works for me, because of course I'm sure that everyone has a very individual and very different experience of it. But as a very dedicated family woman who, like a lot of people, I guess, work to live rather than live to work. After over a decade in contracted employments that included a long time in the NHS. I was in the NHS for 10 years. And following that, I did estate agency work and I sold property. And I also did a bit of farming, which was very much like my childhood background, but I did go back into being a shepherdess, would you believe it, for property, shepherdess, NHS, and I also worked at a school, a secondary school. So my main employment has always been, was always NHS, and then I went for a divorce and I very much needed to be finding my own feet financially with flexibility to also be a present mum, which is personally for me is always my number one goal. But I know a lot of people, family members of mine included, who find the balance of, you know, Monday to Friday working and being with their children at the weekend works just great for them. But for me, it's just never enough. It's never a massive inner drive that I've had to be someone who climbs such a ladder for a big paycheck. But I remember I got to a stage and I realised after a few job hops after my NHS employment that I felt like when I had a contract over my head, I could never quite settle with the life I wanted to be living, I guess, versus the life that I had to live to obviously have a paycheck. And I think to remember the core of even receiving a paycheck that's fair and lawful and has employment rights attached to it is a blessing, and I'm never going to forget that. So I'm just going to say that now. But in terms of, you know, we are the curators of our lives, and you really, or whilst, you know, of course, again, for a lot of people that has challenges, if you're at the point of your life where you can see a chance and take it, that's what I had to do. It's the point I got to. I remember thinking I had nothing to lose, and therefore I got to a place where I was ready to take the leap, take the chance of being self-employed. So I do cosmetic tattooing, but I don't do cosmetic tattooing as you may first imagine it when you hear the word. That includes people doing their eyebrows, tattooing. I don't do that. People doing tattooed eyeliner. I don't do that. I don't do lip blush. I only offer the treatment of hair follicle replication. So I do a sort of category of cosmetic tattooing called scalp micropigmentation. Now with scalp micropigmentation, I am essentially replicating the look of hair follicles for people who possibly come across male pattern baldness, alopecia, androgenic alopecia, trichomania, chemotherapy, any umbrella of people who maybe wear their hair long but they have a thinning crown, people who shave their heads because of their baldness being too greatly obvious. I essentially create the look of hair follicles. So that means for people with thin hair like myself, which is what I've always had and is why I came across this treatment that's still rather unknown in the first place, is that I have a very thin parting. I have androgenic alopecia, so genetically I have very thin hair. You might have seen that if you've seen another one of my uploads. Thank you very much to, I think, the 4 subscribers that I currently have. Like, that's just actually legendary that anyone would even click that button, so thank you so much. But I've watched those videos back and I feel really at peace with myself now, thanks to doing this job. I have now had this studio for 4 years. So it was 4 years ago, I was at a time in my life where I really didn't know how I'd afford to live as a single parent. Although I've been with my lovely partner, Joe, for 6 years. But of course, financially, I think after you've been through a divorce, which was now many, many years ago, but there's always that thing in your head where you know that you need to be financially reliable on yourself. And for me, that's a massive drive, no matter what stage of my life I'm in. I think to work and earn your own things, again, is such a privilege and a blessing that if I have that opportunity, which luckily I do, I'm going to take it. So yeah, I came across this treatment essentially as I was exasperated with solutions for my thin hair. And when I came across scalp micropigmentation, which if you imagine it as permanent hair makeup, permanent hair fibres for people who have long hair or wear their hair long or want to keep a classic men's short back and side maybe, but you might have scalp visible through the hair follicles. It's essentially camouflaging that skin using tattooing techniques. Obviously it's colour matched, it's non-invasive, you don't have to pre-shave your head like you do if you're going for a hair transplant. And I remember seeing this and thinking, firstly, why have I never heard of this before? I thought it was revolutionary. And as someone who's been to Turkey for a rhinoplasty and for teeth before, I had definitely seen people with hair transplant bandages on. And I remember thinking, I'm not the only one who really feels desperate, because hair is such an identity and hair is such a, is such a defining feature really for a lot of people, facially and subliminally. We can't even help it, but subliminally hair means health, hair means youth. So I think when you do lack it, it affects a lot of other things about your confidence. So essentially I saw it and I just had a light bulb come at me. I was currently working in a secondary school at the time, but it was a secondary school for children with educational healthcare plans in place and also challenging behaviours, and it was getting me down. It really, really was. And I remember thinking, I've got nothing to lose here. I didn't have any money to my name really, and I remortgaged my house to start this business. And again, I was very fortunate to be in a position where I had my own mortgage and could remortgage it in the first place. But yeah, that's when I started growing my business, and thank goodness that I did. I thank my past self all the time. I've very much got to a stage now where my Google reviews have built up, so I've got that excellent reputation and rapport with my clients. I've got to the point where my branding, luckily, the one thing I spent a long time with when I first knew I wanted to do this was designing my branding, which has meant I've never had to rebrand, I've never had to rename, got all my things trademarked. I remember feeling like that creative process was probably like the highlight of the whole, the dream is just as fun as actually doing it, if not way more fun, because there's way less bills involved. But that's where I am at this point. So I have a studio that I rent out. This is part of actually a much wider office block that's used. Actually, I'm the only tattoo artist in a rather large building, which is amazing. My branding, I'm Real Me SMP. That's what my company is called. And yeah, it's as simple as, because I don't offer any other treatments, I have, council registered building. I keep my supplies there. I have only scalp micropigmentation related tattoo items. And that's it. It's a stripped back version of any other tattooing, in my opinion, because I stick to my same suppliers. I don't have to differ inks like traditional tattooing. I work at a different depth to traditional tattooing, so this is semi-permanent, so it doesn't go as deep as traditional tattooing, which is what makes it semi-permanent rather than permanent, so it lasts for about 5 years what I do. So the amazing thing about having my business for approaching 4 years now, or am I just over 4 years? Just over 4 years in September, is that I'm starting to see my early clients come back for their top-ups now, and I just, like I say, I thank my past self all the time for making that leap that was so difficult and so daunting to me, because the only recollection of self-employment I had growing up with my dad, who was a self-employed consultant, saying to me, don't ever go self-employed. Don't ever go self-employed. And I remember when I literally was 18, which is when I started to work for the NHS, and I was a healthcare assistant working in the emergency departments, he'd say, work for the NHS, it's a really secure employer, and you'll never have a problem getting a paycheck. And I listened to him for quite a while, but as we get older, we know that adults aren't really adults and they don't know everything. So yeah, sorry, Dad. I have gone self-employed, and luckily, now that my son is 12 and he's just started his secondary education of homeschooling, I'm going to do a separate video on that. This gives me the flexibility and the money to give my one and only child everything, not financially everything is in all of my time, all of my energy, all of my effort. I knew when I had one child, I was pregnant very young. I always said to myself, do it once, do it properly. It's really easier said than done when you've got your new baby in your arms, you don't know what's to come, but I have made myself proud by truly sticking to that. I felt like I had a lot to prove having him young. This is my final piece of the puzzle. I think often when your children go to secondary school, what you imagine is they're older, they don't need you as much anymore. But I think the world's a very difficult place for people to go through puberty, and it always has been, really. That's the time that I wanted to be more present and making sure that his sort of years are going as he wants them to, and that I had the time to utilise it. So I basically work at home Monday to Friday. I never am in here during the week unless it's to do a restock or a deep clean. And at the weekends, I pack in my clients. So Ozzy's usually with his stepdad at the weekends, or with my mum, or my sister is with my sister at the moment. And again, that means I have no paid for additional childcare. But again, my homeschooling video will come just separately, because obviously he does have paid for groups and things. But even when he does, that's when I open my laptop and I crack on building my client base, booking people in, ready for my weekends at work. So I will give you a very quick tour of the studio. I'm very lucky. I adore the business manager that's here, that's in charge of all the buildings. I have a very reasonable rent for what I do and for my licensing. That's basically a good example of the treatment that I offer. So I have a few branded bits around, and I haven't got too much to show. I think in the future I could definitely do a more in detail video about SMP, the benefits and things like that, but I do have that all over on my Real Me SMP Instagram, and I am actually waiting on a client currently to come in. So yeah. This is the way that I allow myself to earn, basically, whilst feeling very, very free with my time. I'm so thankful for it. I've now gone into training other people on how to open their own scalp micropigmentation businesses and the process. And yeah, I just thought it'd give a nice little bit of context as to the videos, and when we have our nice trips and our holidays, our weekends away, what work we do to get to that point. Joey, my partner, works really harder than anyone I've ever known, or met or heard of before, as a biomedical scientist of microbiology in a hospital. So he works his tushy off. He really does, to provide for us. And that's amazing, because it's December at the moment, and Decembers are always, of course, my quietest month. Hence why I was like, I'm going to pick up the camera today. And that's to be expected. And I think after my first year of having a quiet December, I realised that then in the other 11 months of the year, I needed to foresee and to budget for those quiet Decembers, because my pattern of clients was that they were not going to be spending up to £1,500 on themselves during a Christmas month, when they'd be buying toys for their children, their partners, and having sort of Christmas breaks away and things. So my goal going forward to 2026 is I feel it in my bones that the popularity of this treatment is now getting more known, and I think I'm going to have my best year ever in 2026. I'm going to work towards that. I'm just not doing anything other than getting all my ducks in a row to make sure that 2026 is my bumper year. And again, I can do that just by putting clients in on Saturday and Sunday, working from home Monday to Friday. So yeah, it's all exciting, it's all to come. I feel so privileged to, all on my own, really. Of course I had like verbal support and encouragement and total hesitations from friends and family as well, being like, is this not some pipe dream you're following, and how could someone pay you £500 for a few hour session? Is that going to work? Da, da, da. Of course I had, and you need those devil's advocate opinions to ground you when you have a vision in your mind, but I really did build this just myself. I created my branding, I reached out, I found the person who I wanted to help build my website. You know, I ordered the banners, the posters, the first early clients and the models, when you're doing a client and your hand's shaking and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to ruin their actual head. I really pushed through that all on my own merit, and I would encourage anyone, because I was not that person that was brave or thought they could do anything like that, just to really follow a calling if you have it, and also turn your weaknesses into your strengths. My most self-conscious and the thing that would consume me the most would be how much I dislike my hair. Well, I was trying to find a solution for it when I found a solution for, basically, finances aside, for how I manage my time. So turn your weaknesses into your strengths, and there is nothing that will serve you better than doing that. And in turn, of course, talking to clients every day who feel like they have real self insecurities and self-conscious thoughts daily about their hair. It's really helped me find strength in my thin hair, because I feel like I'm not the only one. I'm helping them, and I'm telling them, you know, part of getting the treatment done is that psychologically you need to shelf this. You need to realise I'm doing all I can in my power to change it, and I can't do any more than that. And it's still your body, it's still your healthy body, hopefully. It's still the body that houses you, and it's still the body that's been given to you, and it's still the body of your parents, you know, that have made you who you are today, and the parents who went before them. So you have to an extent, of course, we're justified and allowed to have our self-insecurities, but sometimes you have to put a stop to it. And if you've done all you physically can to change it, after that, put it out of your mind, don't torture yourself, you know. And I can say that because I've been there. I have been there, and like I said, I've had cosmetic treatments, and I've very much had to come full circle back to thinking, when we change ourselves and we have tweaks, treatments, injectables, cosmetics, surgeries, do them out of love, not out of punishment for your body. And again, that's something that, I mean, I could talk on forever, and it's taken me 10 years really to be able to learn that myself and talk like this. But big love and thanks to all my clients for the trust they put in me, the relationships they build with me, and their heads that they give to me, to in turn help them get some confidence back. So yeah, I am just waiting for a client to come in now, and then it's the Saturday before Christmas, so this is my last client of the year, or actually maybe I've got one in between New Year, but anyway, it's my last client before Christmas, and I can't wait to maybe film me working or go into this some more in January in the new year and get ready for my best year yet. I think after 4 years of having your own business, you really expect to, you know, step it up, and I'm ready for it. I'm not gonna drop the reins, not gonna drop the ball. We just keep pushing forward. So I hope you all enjoyed my super quick mini tour, an explanation of what I do for work. And again, if you're actually watching this and you're on the channel, that's really, really appreciated. I love YouTube. I'm a huge supporter of making your own media. It's very difficult to know what to trust these days. So the best thing to do is to make your own and go to people who have no ulterior motives, and their own authentic individual stories. So thanks for joining me again on my channel, and I look forward to bringing you back one day. Hopefully I'll get a client who doesn't mind being filmed, and I can explain the process a little bit more. Yeah, we're just going to have fun with it. Happy Christmas, everyone, and let's blinking go and get 2026, because it's all in our power and it's all in our control. And I feel really, really blessed to be sharing it. So thanks very much, and I'll see you again soon.